finally here at the first episode. We've been talking about this for a while. We've been kind of teasing it around to you for a little bit on Facebook and things, and we finally are getting ready to do it. And so here we are finally at our first episode. What we're going to be doing on the channel here is trying to do a show at least once a week, showing you some basic things you can do in your garden. And as we get on to the year, we can get outside and we can show you some things outside too. This is our little set that we developed down in the basement here at the garden center. So it's not the greatest set in the world, but we're beginners. We'll figure this out as we go. Everybody calm down. We'll figure it out. So we just want to welcome you to the program, and then also we'll be doing some kind of behind the scenes videos, trying to slow those in through the week too. Some of the things that kind of go on here at the garden center, especially early, showing you how we kind of get everything started. So when you come in here in May and you see everything looking bright and beautiful, you wonder, how in the world did they do that? Well, we're going to show you, kind of pull back the curtain and show you a little bit of what goes on when we're getting everything going. So to start off today, we're going to be talking about just some basic early things you can do in your garden. The weather's been nice for the last couple of days and everybody's itching to get out into the yard and itching to get their garden going. So what's some of those early steps? Well, one of the first things we're going to be wanting to do is till our garden up. So this time of year is a good time to do that, get it done early. While you're doing your tilling, a very important thing to do is go ahead and do your fertilizer as well. Fertility is the biggest problem we see in gardens. Most people don't have enough. And then they wonder why their vegetable crops don't come in looking very good and they don't get the yields that they would like. It's mainly because they don't have enough fertilizer. That's the number one thing. So when we're out there tilling our garden, we're going to till it once, kind of give it a good rough over first, get all the weeds and everything kind of knocked down and kind of everything mushed back together. And then what we're going to do is apply a fertilizer, just broadcast that over there, just kind of coat the whole garden and then till that in. Fertility as in fertilizer doesn't do us any good if it's not down into the soil, so we want to till that in and get that down in there. So when your vegetable crops are going, you've got that food right there at their roots, so they can pick that up and utilize that right away. So that's one of the first things we want to do. This is Garden Tone from Asparagus. It's an organic fertilizer. We also have other fertilizers as well, a whole range of different fertilizers, so we can fertilize just about anything you need. Also, another thing you can do at this time of year is get a soil test done. We can help you with that too, so you can send your soil samples off to a lab and figure out what exactly fertility you need. Because a lot of times people come in and say, hey, what kind of fertilizer do I need? You go to the doctor and ask him how much blood pressure medicine you need, not without running some tests. So we want to do the same thing in the garden as well, and we can set you up on how to do that. So after we've done our fertility and everything, now it's time to actually start planting something. So here we are at the early time of year, and there's some things we can do. First off, one of the first things we can do is potatoes. So what you can do when you plant your potatoes, one thing you can do is you can just leave your potato whole and pop that right down in there if you want. Or what you can do, also back what they used to do, and I've already pre-cut this one, but what you can do is you can see here, we got a couple different eyes on this potato. And that's where the plant actually starts from, is these little eyes. Back in the day, what they used to do is cut these apart everywhere there was an eye, because they didn't have a lot of money then. So they were trying to get as much use out of one potato as they could to get multiple plants. So you can cut them open or you can leave them whole. Choice is up to you. There's no right or wrong way to do it. If you're planting into wet soils, one thing I would highly recommend you use is a sulfur product. And what you do with the sulfur is basically put it in, what you can do is put it in a plastic container. This is a sulfur powder. And then just kind of roll that potato in it and get it a good coating of sulfur on there. And what sulfur does, sulfur is a fungicide, a natural fungicide. And what that kind of does is boost up the immunity of that potato plant and gets it kind of started, especially in kind of cooler wet soils, kind of what we're dealing with right now. And what that does is that kind of helps that, so that you don't have to worry about any fungus or anything or bacteria getting in there and kind of hurting them. Wet soils do have a tendency to do that. The plant gets weakened and it doesn't do as well. Another way you can do sulfur, if you don't like that method, is the shake and bake method. And what you do is you take a little bit of that powder, put it in about a gallon Ziploc bag, put you a couple potatoes in there, basically shake and bake it up, and then you can pop your potatoes out and plant those right into the soil. If you're going to use sulfur, I highly recommend you use some gloves with that. Sulfur can be a little rough on your skin. I have very sensitive skin, and sometimes that sulfur can really kind of tear that up, and you're going to have kind of a rough experience on your hands. So make sure you do wear some gloves if you are using the sulfur. And might want to plug your nose too, because it's pretty stinky stuff. Things you can do is onions this time of year. So there's two different types of onions out there. We've got the green onions, where you eat the tops, and those come in a little bulb form just like this. And when you plant that, you want to plant that about up to there. So we're just going to kind of stick that down into the soil. Hopefully you can see. Since we're down here in the basement, not outside, we've got our little planting box here for demonstration purposes. And then you see we'll just have just a little bit of that green part sticking out. After a couple of weeks, you'll have the big green, and then you cut that off, and then you've got your green onions. Another type of onion is the bulb type onions. Those usually come in a bundle, very similar to this. Usually there's about 50 in here. And what you do is with these is you're going to plant those about up to here and get that down all underground. So this is a Vidalia onion, so think of the Vidalias that you get at the grocery store, and that gets your big bulb on it. So you'll plant that right down in there, and you're going to plant those about 4 to 6 inches apart. And then later on, about 1st of June, when we start getting a little bit warmer weather, what you're going to do is make a little track right next to it, and you're going to put a high nitrogen fertilizer, and you're going to side dress that right next to your bulb onions. And what that does is, onions need a lot of nitrogen to go ahead and get that big size to them. When it comes to the bulb type onions, you've got Vidalias, which people are most familiar with. Then there's the candy onions, which are more the sweet type. And if you want one that stores really long, is the copra. So if you want onions for all winter long, a lot of the sweet type onions aren't very good. They break down over time a lot faster. And what that bulb will kind of mush up on you because it's using that sugar up. Copras don't have that problem. They've got a natural ability to hold on to their shape and everything. They don't use the sugars as much. So those are the better storing type onion, and we have plenty of those because it is one of the most popular ones. We've actually had people in the last 2 to 3 weeks here say they're still eating copras that they planted last year because they hold up that well. One of the other things we can do this time of year is asparagus. So this is an asparagus plant. What we do is we get them and we kind of put them in we plant them up for you into a little thing, but then what you want to do is once you get home, is you're going to plant these horizontally. So you're going to plant that kind of just like that, just with this little bit of this crown sticking out of the soil. So we'll just kind of pop him right down in here, just to kind of show you how it works. Now, asparagus you want to plant directly into the ground. It is a perennial. One of the things about asparagus, though, is it usually takes 2 to 3 years to actually get a harvestable crop. It does take a long time to get going. And when you plant it at an angle like that, when you plant that horizontally, you've got all these roots hanging out here. What will happen is this will shoot up plants from here. So you'll end up with, that's how they kind of reproduce, is they reproduce through these long roots, and then they just kind of pop up out of the ground that way. So again, you're going to have an area that you got some room for. Asparagus can be slightly aggressive, so it does spread. So make sure you got a big area for that asparagus that you want. But again, you're not going to get a crop for about 2 to 3 years. Another thing you can do is strawberries this time of year. And here's a little strawberry plant. Again, when we get them, they're either in a bundle of 25, or we do plant some up that are, there's a dozen in a pot. So we do have a couple different options there. But what you get is this guy here, and you can see this one's got a lot of big roots on it and everything. And sometimes they'll come on, and once you get them this time of year, sometimes they got the leaves on them, sometimes they don't. Don't panic if they don't have leaves. They're not dead. They're just dormant. They're just not actively growing yet. And so what you want to do is just kind of pop those guys down in the ground, kind of like that. Now a lot of people do kind of put those in raised areas in the ground. They kind of build up a little spot for them, either using like a 2x4 frame, or we're doing ours in tractor tires. We'll show those later on this year once they get going. We'll show you another way to do that. But we're growing ours in a tractor tire full of dirt. And that's a good way because sometimes they like to be just a little bit off the ground, but we've got different types of soils that you can plant that in, some good potting mixes, especially our veggie mixes, especially designed for that. You can pop that down in there because they do like to be above the ground a little bit, and they are a little bit easier to contain that way. So there's our first episode, some things you can do in your garden right now. If you have any comments or suggestions of things you want to see in the future, we would love to hear them. Either stop in and ask us, or put them down in the comments below. If you like what we're doing here and you want to see what we're doing here all the time, hit that subscribe button down there at the bottom with your YouTube account, which is actually your Google account, which most people have one. So go ahead and subscribe to that, and then you'll see us all the time. After you subscribe, there's also a little bell-shaped figure down there. If you click that, then you'll get a notification on either your tablet or your phone, whatever device you're watching us from today, and that'll shoot up a little notification that we posted a new video. And like I said, we're going to be having behind-the-scenes stuff and also stuff in your garden as well. If you like what we're doing, go ahead and hit that like button too. That's how we know what we're doing is right, and that's what you guys want to see. But until next time, I'm Brad Clayton, and this is the first episode of GC TV, and we will see you guys next time.